creative podcast that dives into the journeys of indie artists, filmmakers, and musicians. I am your host, Ian Burr, and today we have a special guest with us, Luke Ring, a young filmmaker, director, and DP from Michigan and the Chicago area, who's already making waves in the film space with his production company, Sukavision. At just 20 years old, Luke has directed 7 films with more in the works and is balancing freelance as a DP while growing his film career. So Luke, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ian. That was just an absolutely wonderful write-up. Thank you for making me sound cool.
I'm doing what I can, Luke.
Hey, I personally think that that's a great write-up. Whoever this guy is, he must be cool. I'm not biased, though.
So Luke, I want to talk about how you got into filmmaking and your journey into filmmaking. I know before we hopped into filming, you talked about the choice to forego playing college basketball and going on to filmmaking. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, you're an athlete, so you get kind of in that. It's like you're in your senior year of high school. You're deciding these things of where are you going? What are you going to do? And it wasn't something that I was like, what am I going to do? It was kind of the only thing I want to do is make stuff. So it kind of goes back to, I've been a YouTuber pre-film. So YouTuber, the new age filmmaker almost, even though I hate that, it's true. In 7th grade, I was a vlogger under the name Oscar Lero. So don't ask me why I had some code name, but I didn't want anyone to know that I was a vlogger. That led me to do tech reviews under the name Cable Management, where I actually got some products sent to me, from companies, to a 7th grader, which led me to do comedy skits of 200 videos with Sam Braidway, who is a film producer that I work with Sukavision. Which led me to, we were one day, Sam and I were sitting around. My dad, when he was just kind of my age, was getting into film 20 years ago. And he made some stuff as he got a little bit older, some films, never really took it big. So that seed was planted though, that he had filmmaking. So it was always there. Obviously, I love movies just like everyone else, and always was I would love to create these. So he had this film seed there, and he asked Sam and I one day, he's like, why? You guys should just try to make a short film. And we're like, what? At that point, short film wasn't even a thing. I didn't even know I don't know how, but I never even, besides Pixar shorts, was the only thing I even knew. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll try. Made it. We're like, this is fun. We're but it doesn't fit. We have all these really, really crazy, goofy videos. Even though goofy is just, for some reason, feels a little weird of a word to use. Silly, goofy videos. And we were it doesn't fit. And it just kept leading us to build okay, let's take it a little more serious. Each time it kind of got more and more. And we're okay, wait, you can get paid. Oh, you can be a cameraman. You can be a grip. You can be a PA. You can be a director. All these roles started to come out. And then directing specifically really spoke because I've always had a clear vision and always had wanting to, I have so many ideas that are coming, and I'm I probably should do the role that you get to use those ideas. And then more and more just started to fall in love with everything the director can do of what shots you're trying to get of to give feeling and working with actors and all these different things. But long answer, that is the official lineage of the Luke Ring start.
Well, so you've already founded your production company in a sense. So how has it been like jumping into this competitive field like so quickly, and like what does it look like over the last like 2 years?
It's been challenging because you learn really quick nobody cares and everyone's trying to make a short film. So it's like, how do you stand out? How do you really, like, I mean, it's such a like nobody cares. Like, it's so tough and you're competing against people with a lot of money. So it's you're not only facing money and other people that are much older, and a lot of people like don't, if you're a young filmmaker, they don't really care that much. Like, it's already harder when you're younger. So just presenting things in a professional way for me has helped a lot to like stand out as a company. And at the beginning, having your short film out, like as an example, seeing other filmmakers, okay, when their short comes out, it comes out, maybe they do some Instagram stuff, but I always feel like it's kind of hard to find their film, and not having like a website and having links, making everything very clean, very simple, having like a very easy, very like palatable thing to take in. I noticed like, okay, this is an area where I don't see a lot of indie filmmakers having like a brand, or it's usually the film, and this is areas I've been like, is this smart? Should I brand it around myself instead of doing a company? Because is that like, is doing a company too corporate, or too, is, are people gonna look at that and say like, oh, it's just another company that's making films, versus trying to get it to be like the indie filmmakers, always this idea of bringing back filmmaking to what it was, of, and not obviously using, not only doing, like, I love practical effects from old movies, but not only doing that, but like that idea of like movie magic and making a movie. And I feel like nowadays so much stuff, whether it's getting into like politics into movies or throwing things in that don't need to be there, it's like you should be making your movie to tell the story the best it can, to be fun. I think people forget movies are entertainment. A lot of indie filmmakers are like, this is art, this is only art. It's like, no, you're making movies are here because people buy tickets. It's like, remember that. Obviously I love the artistic side too and telling a story, but I feel like, and specifically in short films, there's so many films that are like, just, there's like, it's, short films is such a weird genre. Don't you feel that like it is
Yeah,
weird?
yeah,
Like
without a doubt.
there's no, I think you get, I feel like you get this because your stuff too is just like I feel like you're making entertaining stuff, which is like, that's, you want it to be entertaining and have a meaning. I don't know if that makes sense, and that's a broad answer for the stuff, but it's like, you can't, you just got to be consistent, and that's the only thing that will work almost.
So what would you say, like, where would you take something that you want to see on screen, and then maybe not necessarily have the mass appeal that you're talking about, like for like it is entertainment. So how do you kind of blur those lines of like something that you want to make personally, but you also want to make it entertaining?
This is, I'm going to be a little vulnerable here, Ian. I feel like I kind of struggle having stories I want to tell personally. Like the ideas I have, for instance, our last film was an action adventure film where this guy's running around the woods getting chased by these two German soldiers. Um, and that film obviously isn't a personal like feel, and I get, and when I hear stuff of like, put in your personal lives into these movies, I'm like, how in the world am I gonna have anything that I can put into this? And I love that you asked that, because I am like, I am trying to figure out like, what, who am I? Like, am I so caught up in creating movies to be, and this could be even from like doing YouTube skits of like always trying to make it something that I, maybe that's like some really deep stuff of like, I'm escaping my life through film. Maybe that's how it could look. But do you feel like you input your personal stuff into your film work?
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, my first short film that I did on my own was a like a story about a good friend of mine who had passed away like while I was in college. And so like I wrote the story how like I experienced it, and I needed people outside of the fact to help me revise it, where I'm taking out some of my like own personal like things that are important to me in the story, and like my personal story out of it, to kind of make that story entertaining. because like I remember talking to a friend of mine, Aiden Boss, and when I gave him the script, he was like, "This is great, but like it means nothing to me." And so I was like, "Okay, that's fair."
Yes.
And so like for me, it was like finding like an underlying story of something I experienced, but then how can I create a positive or something that's received positively by the um, the viewer to kind of engage them in the story, and they it's not necessarily like this is the only story being told. It's like they can feel themselves or parts of themselves in different aspects of the film.
Yeah.
And so that was like doing that in my first like actual short film, I think was very helpful for me to kind of understand, like kind of work on blending those lines. And then
Yeah.
I find myself like doing it a lot with characters per se, rather than the storyline itself, where it's like I know a character like this and I can base this character off of a friend that I have in my life or a person that I've met, and like what are their mannerisms, and then how can I build that character around them.
What you're saying, I'm now having a little bit of retrospective here of like, okay, because I do actually apply that, but I don't think of that now that you're saying it. I'm like, oh, maybe I do it subconsciously of thinking like, especially I think this happens when early directors work with their friends or people they know. It's you have to write the character like your friend because they're not good enough to play someone else, if we're being honest. So it's like, but it makes them better because I've just gotten kind of out of the bubble of working with my friends, and I'm not gonna lie, I love my friends, but the production has skyrocketed because if you do work with actors, shocker, they're gonna be good. It's like, and obviously working with your friends is good, but you're right, you can like infuse that personal side, which I love that you said. Great line there, Ian. You helped me there. You helped me find myself.
I'm glad I can help that out, Luke. That's what I'm here to do. It's just working.
This is just therapy for me, I guess, right here.
So tell me a little bit about like where you see, like what is your vision for not only the company but yourself, and where do you like, not necessarily like a 5-year plan, but like what are some of your dreams and aspirations that you see for yourself?
I'm a big dreamer. I won't hide that. I really do believe in, as cheesy as it is, like, hey, if you have a dream, no one's gonna stop you, or people will try, obviously, but you are ultimately the one that can lead that, and anyone can follow their dreams, and I do believe that. So my dreams are set to the ceiling and through the ceiling of get to be one of the greatest directors of all time, be making movies in Hollywood. I have goals of kind of revolutionizing the movie theater world too. I feel like movie theaters nowadays are so much, it's like, obviously the ticket sales are going down and stuff, and I do think movies are, they're not dying, but they're going to a new area. The world is turning into a very niche place. Everyone has their niche, what they like. So I think film is going to become that, and there needs to be a place for film. Like movie theaters need to be the film sanctuary almost, of like you go in there and you feel like you're on the red carpet. You feel like this stuff is going on. So creating a place for filmmakers I don't know how filmmakers haven't gone on like a tour. Like you're telling me if Quentin Tarantino or Christopher Nolan would go to 50 different states and would go to one theater and sell tickets, like come on, I would be paying just like a artist, like a music artist. So I think revolutionizing it in that way. I'm a big Walt Disney fan of like how he took Disney from the ground up. And that was his thing, is revolutionizing with specifically animation, how he did all of like the multi-plane camera and then bringing in theme parks. He's creating an area for his stuff to live. And that's something for not only as like a filmmaker, but that's kind of my goal for the company, is creating and doing that through creating good films, and continuously working up playing that game, the Hollywood game, but then also saying, you know what? Hollywood's hard to get into, so it's like I'm gonna play my own game if they don't notice me, and maybe that means selling out theaters my own way and going up, and then I have it tied into Walt Disney, and I'll have to send you the file of I actually created. He has this map of all of his things that he has planned out with all these arrows going into stuff. And the other day it was like 6 or 7 hours and I did that. It's actually an upcoming vlog for my YouTube channel, not to plug myself, but it's an upcoming vlog I did about like this very question, which is funny you asked because I was ready for it then because I just did it, of doing how all these other things go into each other. And I have this YouTube channel that I'm giving like the inside look of what it's like being a part of a film company and making films. So all my vlog is something that shows all of this stuff, and that would be the thing that brings attention, because nowadays, as cringy as it sounds, you're fighting for the attention, you're fighting for eyes. Like, no one's gonna watch. It's really hard to get someone to watch a short film, even a really good short film. So making them care in a different way. So all of that tying into kind of like a goal of, it's hard for me to think. Anytime I've said like, oh, a year from now I'm going to be doing X, it's never right. Something always comes up. So I don't have a set goal. My thing is always my next project, and I try to always have a next project. I have a movie here shooting in 3 weeks. After that, I don't know what's going to happen. I have a rough plan, but usually those ideas, something else comes up better before that. But yeah, we'll see. I have a lot of goals, and I think I'm going to reach them. You have to believe it. You fake it till you make it. You have to believe it or it won't happen.
Well, I for one definitely believe in, your charisma. I believe in your charisma. I believe you can sell whatever you need to sell. And
Thank you, Ian.
And I think you'll be able to reach any goal you set.
Because you're a filmmaker, I have a question. Do you feel like movie theaters lack something? Do you feel like there could be more?
Yeah, 100%. I feel in the last couple years there's been a few movies that have really like blown me away, even just going to see in the theater. One of them would be Oppenheimer, of course, and one of them would be Boys in the Boat. And I think it's just like the theater itself relies so much on what you're going to see, right? Like the experience relies on the film at hand. And so when you were talking about filmmakers making like a tour of sorts, it reminded me of, I don't know, I would assume you would know who this is, Danny Gervais, who's great.
Yes, yeah. He did this, right?
Exactly. So he did, when he put out I Think I'm Sick, before he released it to the public, he did those. I think he did like eight tours or something like that, eight different cities. And was there at all of them. People got to ask him questions, and I feel like that was such a hook because I watched his whole series on him going through this movie and like all the behind the scenes, and I was invested in this film. And then I'm like, okay, where can I go see him? I wasn't able to go watch the film, but like I was actively looking for opportunities to buy these tickets.
Yeah. And you never probably would have watched that movie, right? Like if it doesn't do the tour.
And so like and now like I guess I'm waiting. I think it's on Amazon now, and so like I might just buy it on Amazon or something. But like that, like when you were talking about doing those tours, that was my first thought, and I was like, that is a fantastic idea, because like Danny Gervais was the first person I ever like saw do it in that way, and so I feel like that. I feel like there's such a disconnect between the viewer and the production of a film itself, where people aren't necessarily invested in the creation process, and I think as filmmakers, like we want to see more of the behind the scenes stuff to begin with, but I feel like being set on just like the trailers or like that kind of aspect of, you're just invested on the story on the screen and not necessarily the story behind it and why it came to fruition, and being able to hear the director talk about funny things that have happened or the challenging things that have happened, the setbacks and the happy accidents that we see and we don't think about, but he might not have written, and is like, oh, we're going to use that instead. And you hear about that a lot when they do interviews and they do these things after the fact, but I think being able to see them live and ask those questions, I think gives you a better investment into the story itself, and then you then you have a tie with that movie forever.
Yeah, then you're a fan. You're going to check him out. Like, if you go to see the director, no matter what level, like, if you would have made it to that film, you would have been hooked even more than you already are, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
I think it has a lot of, like, and I think the idea is how can you bring in, so, like, the other idea to that is holding a film festival at these theaters. I don't know if it would be new theaters that are being built and saying, hey, these new filmmakers that are coming out and winning festivals or doing well, need to be put on like a tour, like by a company behind, like Sukavision is the company that if you're a filmmaker, they're going to give you this chance to go be, it's like an event. And that's what filmmaking, like at the theater, is supposed to be an experience. And it's no longer an experience because everyone can watch a movie on their phone. What you need is a big group of people that, if you get a group of people that are really excited to go see a movie, that experience is going to be so much better than a random day. So I'm glad that you see some positive to it, because you would potentially be someone that were like, Ian, we want to book you for this many days to go out on tour. We're going to get you merchandise. You're a Sukavision under the production for this or whatever. So that would be the goal.
Because it also makes me think of those clips you see of the movie theaters when movies like Star Wars came out for the first time, and like
yes,
the big Star Wars logo pops up and the whole crowd goes nuts in the theater, and you're like, that doesn't happen anymore. Like, it's always quiet. Everyone's just sitting there watching. They get in, get out, and it's just like,
exactly.
It doesn't feel like a community in a sense that it could be. And so I think you're really on something with that, and I think that with the right planning and the right lineup of people, it could be a huge hit.
We'll see. The goal, grow the vlog. Maybe there's an audience there that's growing. It is growing somewhat, so it's like maybe those people will come. That's the goal.
Hey, if you build it, they will come, right?
Yeah. There you go.
I want to kind of dive into some of your films now. I mean, you have made a lot of them at this point. Could you tell us a little bit about some of your favorite films that you've made, and then the progress you have seen from film 1 to now 7 and or 8 and 9 that are still kind of in the bank that are waiting to be released?
Yeah, there's kind of some landmarks. Honestly, I might just bounce from the first to last of like saying a couple about. So that first film was the first introduction. Shot it with my friends. My dad wrote it. It was great. Second film, I broke every rule you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to make your younger actor. This is, if you don't know what I'm talking about, A Vendetta's Debt, which is a gangster film with a bunch of 19-year-olds. Told like a Tarantino movie, out of order, in 17 minutes. Who is this? Who is the idiot behind this movie? Right here. I was so, at first it was going to be a Godfather spinoff. This was in the time where Sam and I were like, let's just make a funny movie. And it was going to be a Godfather kind of spinoff of like, hey, I'm the Godfather. That's the original script is like that. I'm not even joking. And then overnight before we shot, I was like, hey, I don't want to do this. And then I wrote the entire script the night before we shot day 1. So, and it turned this, I don't think the script is that bad. I might be projecting my own sadness onto you guys, but I do believe it has something there. It just can't be with 19-year-olds. And the other thing that we broke the rule is I used an orange and teal LUT. Which you're not supposed to do, but also I think it still looks good. But I did do one thing right, and I did learn one thing, is the importance of an original soundtrack. I had Leo Wall, who was out in California, who was 15 at the time. I met him because he did a beat for a rapper friend of mine in high school that I knew of him. And I said, Leo, I have $600. Can you make me 7 tracks? And he was like, sure. So for a month, we dove into this, and he created, it's on Spotify, and it's not that great. And if you do watch it, but listen to it, it's actually great. It sounds really cool. And we dove into taking all of these different scores from all these movies, and he really understood all these different intricacies. And I was like, okay, This is great. The score is great, and it honestly salvaged what was left of the movie. The out of order, it's just you can't tell a movie out of order, not in a good, like it wasn't told in a great way, out of order. And then you add in that it's in a short film. People are like, "What?" If you're not locked in, you're like, "What's going on?" After that, I broke. So you're like, "Okay, Luke, he's gonna learn from this, right?" No, not at all. Next film, I make a sequel to the short film about the main character called Sorrow's Grave. The worst thing I've ever made, by far, on the planet. Like, I've made garbage vlogs better than this movie. It's not, this is strictly me. Everyone that was a part was just doing, that's like the role of the director is you either are winning because of you or you're losing because you take all of that blame and the success. So there's like a lot of, which I don't think you should be taking all of the success, but that's just how it's looked at. And that was a 17-minute short film sequel about the main character who then ends the movie, spoilers, by killing himself, falling into his own grave that he dug. The darkest movie ever, doesn't make sense, crazy sequel to a crazy short film. Fourth film, American Dreamers, total tone change, a comedy about two friends where the main character, played by Sam, so Sam at this point has been in all 4 movies. Sam at this time was my best actor I had access to. And also Adrian Cipriano, who's one of my great friends, has been, and they were both great in all of these things. They've been amazing. Also, everyone else that's come apart has also been great. But Adrian wasn't in this one, just Sam. And it was a comedy about this guy that robs his grandparents because his grandparents are going to give him a check of money. But that money is only if he goes to college. But he doesn't want to go to college, so he decides to rob his grandparents' house. And that was great. We got on, I think it was ABC News in South Bend. So we were like on live news and we got on the front page of a newspaper. So we were like, our egos were being stroked there. We were like, we are the next big thing. It felt great. And then that led on to making, wow, I'm forgetting my own film, Seven Flames Till Death, which is a dark film. And at that time was the best film I made, and we worked with Malcolm Cumming. Robert Malcolm Cumming is his full name, who's based out of LA. And actually, I know we talked about Danny. The director he worked with is friends with Danny and has worked with him. So he's like a super, like he's been in feature films, but Malcolm took my dad at the time was teaching high school English and film production, and Malcolm 10 years ago was in his film production class. So he knew it, and he was back because of the actor strike. And he was in northern Michigan, which is like, he was a 5-hour drive, and he was like, I want to work with you. I see something there. He drove 5 hours. We shot from 11 a.m. until 3 a.m. at that next day. It was the longest shoot ever. Malcolm absolutely blew me away, and I was like, I need to work with real actors. This is the greatest thing ever. They totally changed the script. They totally bring this, like Malcolm he just blew me away. Like I could set up the dumbest shot ever and he would make it work because he just commanded presence. And that's also where I started to discover how important, this is when Sam started to become, at this point, I kind of had a clear director role. And Sam started to come into this producer role. It kind of worked out. Sam and I have been doing every single project together. And he perfectly filled into that producer role, which allowed me to direct. And he gives me so much energy and confidence to direct. And he handles all of these things. He built a giant metal pendulum and all these things in 2 weeks. He's built every prop we've used with his hand. He's like the most handy. He's literally like a godsend. The greatest thing I could have had out of a friend is like, oh, he happens to be one of the best producers ever and is gonna do great things, and he wants to work with me. So I was like, thank goodness I have Sam. After Seven Flames, you kind of hit that winter cold where we weren't really motivated. Like it's cringy, but it's real. It's like it's not fun to go outside. The sun sets really early. Like I still play basketball a lot, like, and that was keeping me active in the summer. Like, oh, playing I can't go outside. I can't get new idea. It's like I'm just inside all day. So nothing happened for a long time. And I really prided myself on being really consistent and always working really hard and always writing and always editing and always having something. But for like 5 months, I had nothing. And it was kind of weird. It was like a smoke screen because I wasn't like, oh, I'm depressed. I can't do anything. I just was like, I tried some ideas. They just didn't pan out. It was probably in hindsight good to take a break because I was just had way too much energy and it was good to chill for a second. And then we did Patience and Violence, which is a basketball film. And I did that. I have a couple friends. One of them, TJ Mitchell, plays D2 basketball at Davenport. I grew up playing with him, basketball with him. And then Jaden McNabb is playing D3 basketball. And they were my two actors that I had. They're 6'6" and 6'5", and I just had them dunk on Sam and Adrian the whole time. And it was fun. It was good, but I didn't learn the lesson of like, okay, I should, if I know I need good actors, I shouldn't keep bringing people that aren't actors, Like, I need to learn my lesson almost, but also, like, learning the lesson, I wouldn't have made those great memories with my friends making a fun movie, and everything happens for a reason, blah, 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 but whatever, of, like, I need to learn the lesson. So for this next film, I started to, like, really look back and be like, and I kind of wanted to play the short film game. I didn't do it the right way. I was making 17, 15-minute short films the festival way, what does well in a festival, like, quote unquote.
I haven't been confident in a story, or at least a quick enough story, because I've made a 15-minute short film, a 12-minute short film, and then like a 47-minute short film. So it's like you're never really playing by the rules that you were kind of talking about earlier, the rules of these film festivals, in that sense of like, I'm just making what I want to make right now, and I'm not really preparing myself to perform well at film festivals. I have done some 48-hour film festival, and so that's like this is really my only experience with a film festival of that sorts. And so it was just like me and my friends running around for 48 hours making a movie and trying to compete against some production companies in the Kalamazoo area. And so
what was that like? Like, did you see some comp in Kalamazoo, or did it feel like, what was the film game like in Kalamazoo?
It was pretty good. There's some really good production companies based out of Kalamazoo, and three of the people on my team, including me, so me and two other guys, Aiden Boss, who I mentioned earlier, and then my friend James Hauk, who's a director and a DP at Kalamazoo College right now, we all decided we wanted to enter into the professional category instead of the amateur category, which could possibly have been a mistake, but it was, we were very confident going in, and then we went and watched the other pro categories, and we were like, we obviously did not have access to an Alexa Mini, and like,
oh my gosh,
couldn't really make that high quality film that they were being able to make, because we're shooting on an FX30 and a Blackmagic Pocket, and like cutting them together and making this crazy fantasy film about stop signs, and like, I mean, it's just...
Oh, I saw it. I know what we're talking about. You used the Lord of the Rings clip at the beginning, right?
We did.
I'm locked. Come on, Ian. I'm locked.
But yeah,
I'm watching.
It was more of the experience of like, James had done several 48-hour film festivals, and I was like, I want to do one, and if I'm gonna do one, I want to do one with a group of people that I can spend 48 hours straight with. And
because you had to edit that in 48 hours.
Yeah, we literally spent. So we got the prompt at, I think, like 8 or 9 o'clock on a Friday night. We wrote the script. I didn't write the script, thank God. But the writers on our team, Grace Cancro was the main writer of our team.
I've worked with her.
She's
Little
great.
Library.
She
fantastic.
Is. But she kind of took lead on the writing aspect and wrote until 1 or 2 in the morning that night. Then we came back at 6 a.m. Met back at my house at 6 a.m., revised it a little bit, started shooting at 8 a.m., shot all day until sundown, and then a little bit into the night in some of our indoor scenes, and then we edited all day Sunday and turned it in at like that 7 o'clock mark Sunday night, and I think we finished at like 6:47 or something with the edit, and like
My gosh.
we were like
That's stressful.
yeah, we were getting really close. Thank goodness Aiden Boss was our head editor for that, so we were able to offload a bunch of stuff and have him kind of start editing while we were shooting,
Smart.
Which was very I was very thankful for, and he's a really good editor, has an insane ear for sound and for music, and he's been my like audio engineer on every project I've done, and like I can make a simple edit, like I'll cut it up and then I'll give it to him, and I'm like, you fix this, and he's like, all right. So I was very thankful that he came down from Grand Rapids for the weekend and stayed with us to help us make that. But the competition aspect is, I mean, we didn't win best film. I think we won best best use of character with our, I don't know if you watched the whole film, but there was a guy that spoke in riddles, and he was smoking like 4 cigarettes at the same time.
Yeah.
So he ended up winning best character.
Oh, awesome.
And so our I think our writing really saved our project in that sense of like I think the way that we wrote that was really funny, and it was a good time. But it was interesting to be running around for 48 hours.
Oh yeah.
And just shooting, and then it's like you don't really have time to go and recover things. It's just like, I hope we got everything. Let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah, literally.
But the talent in Kalamazoo is pretty quality, and watching their films, we were very happy with the product we put out, and then we went and watched their films, and we were like, you can do a lot more with an Alexa Mini, really.
Yeah, that's such a high, yeah. Again, if you're competing against, like, it goes back to earlier, when you're competing against people that have money, it's like, what can you do to beat that? It's like, you got to work 300% harder almost, you know? Or I don't even know what, it's like, when you're going up against an Airy, what do you do? What do you do?
You just hope you have a guy that smokes 4 cigarettes at one time.
Just hope. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
And
there you go.
And people laugh. But that was the first time seeing a film that I have made on a big screen. And so that was, I think that's more inspiring than anything. And it's like, that's what I aspire to have, is my movies on a big screen. And like,
yeah,
that's, so getting a taste of that and being like, it's possible, is and kind of keeps the wheels rolling. But I mean, you've been to some film festivals, so I want to hear what, like, your experience with that, and I know you talked about like creating a film that would work in a film festival. So like, how does
yeah, film festivals have like so many stupid rules. It's like, I mean, not stupid, I get it, it's like they're a business too, they're trying to make money. I really hate, and again, it makes sense, I just hate it, that you can't use like, you have to use music that you own. It's like, bruh, like, come on, that's so, like, it's so hard. I get it, you're keeping out like people that are just gonna steal John Williams or whatever, but it's like, that for me was a tough rule to learn. And it's like, you can't post online, that's another rule. Like, I'm like, I get it, again, you want it to be premiere status, but for a filmmaker that's trying to work their way up, I need it to be online for people to know I'm a filmmaker, or for anyone to just, and again, it can still come out online after a year. Like, no one's going to see the project I've been working on for a year. It's like that to me, and it's delayed gratification, but it's also like I'm delaying my career by a year now. And the idea is to be backlogged up, obviously, to go to film festivals, release online film festivals. Hopefully that's the plan. Maybe it won't work, and maybe I won't learn from it, but that's the idea. So I've thrown my own premiere for Patience and Violence, which went really, really well, which I could classify kind of as like a film festival. And then I think I've only actually been to one, which is in New York. In the one in New York, I kid you not, Sam and I are sitting at the table with our vendor. This guy comes up to us and he goes, "Oh, Yeah, I'm not gonna really watch your movie. It doesn't really look too good to me. From looking at the costume and this hat, the Sukavision hat was sitting on the table. And he's like, yeah, I already know it's gonna be terrible. And we're like, all right, well, this is New York for you. This is what it is. Pizza was great. The people were mean. My heart was ripped out that day. But it was a cool festival. You get to meet. You're just meeting filmmakers. You're getting that experience to see your film on the big screen. You get to hear the sound, everything about it. Being in New York gave it a cool feel too. Um, but it's like movies are meant to be seen on a bigger screen, and I'm a big like fan of people's reactions, like getting to see the reaction to a big action scene or a joke is much more suspenseful than an action scene because humor is by far that's like another annoyance is I kind of have a comedy background of making like funny YouTube skits. So like I in any comedy I've done, it's so festivals are like it's such a festivals are so pretentious of it needs to be all these films that are winning are always like 10 minutes of like super emotional, super dramatic. They're not saying how they really feel. And I get it. It's like they're making the films for the people for the other filmmakers that like those and make those films almost versus cuz short films in my mind it goes movies, TV shows, they're kind of in that same category. And then all the way at the bottom is short films. It's like I don't how many short films do you consume on a monthly basis?
Maybe 1 to 2.
Exactly. And I'm that same thing. If you're telling me you and me, who are indie filmmakers creating short films, don't even watch, it's like it's such a weird thing of like, I don't know. I don't even know. It feels so weird. Like, why are we creating a short? I get it's proof of concept for like, can you make a feature film? Or it does have a place of like, and I think like what you're saying with your first film where you're creating it about something that happened, like those things are important. And I think short films do actually fit that well. But it is also hard when you do make something that is more trying to be genre based, like a genre film, which for some reason all festivals are, unless it's a genre festival, they don't like it. And that was kind of a hard thing for me because I am in a way a genre filmmaker of like I've done all these different movies and I haven't made really Little Library, which will come out, is kind of a drama. It's kind of like a live action Pixar short, almost kind of like the marriage life scene in Up. It's kind of like that. That's what we base the soundtrack off of. Is that feeling? But maybe that'll do well in the festivals, but you just don't, you're like blindly putting in your ticket. Like, can I please get in? And then you're like, you also have to think about this person's getting, like, we submitted to Sundance for Little Library, $90. Bye, that money's gone. They're not watching Sundance. I learned Sundance 60%, 60 or 70% of the films at Sundance are pre-programmed by directors already. That other 30%, they're looking for these almost like they have their like it's like the inclusion standards of like what race or what orientation are all these things, which is like obviously I want everyone to be able to create films. But they're doing that. I just learned they have those settings to check those boxes because they get funding if that certain percent is filled. So it's like so for me, I'm not really someone that's checking any of those boxes of like just being real, of like, and that's I'm not trying to hate on any of that or anything, but it's like when I'm thinking I'm gonna go submit a film, it's like I'm there's like already a 1% chance, and now it's 0.001 because the game's so rigged against you as a filmmaker, which is why the whole movie theater thing I feel like could save me doing that. But maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe if I get into Sundance, I'll be like, screw everyone. I am at the top. I don't care anymore. This is coming from someone that hasn't made it into Sundance, so take it with a grain of salt. But I don't know what that would be my again extremely long answer to your question.
That's so fair. I kind of want to hear like what would you say to somebody that's aspiring to be an indie filmmaker and like um maybe they're just starting out or they're kind of losing that fire that they started with because they're not seeing the results that they think they should be seeing, what would your message be to them?
That's a great question, Ian. When I when I think I sounded like a politician there a little bit. I it's so weird because you really have to like fully be in. Well, it's like you can make films and not have to be a filmmaker as your career. I'm someone who is doing it as my career. So like if I don't do this, I will be on the side of the road. Like it's almost a I've and I don't want to say put yourself in that situation. But it is really just about doing it. And once you like if I can get to this point and make some garbage stuff, then anyone else, like it's you can make garbage and people will be like, "Oh, that's garbage." And then in a year they'll be like, "I don't care anymore," because they're just scrolling or they're like once you see, and I think this only applies when you're starting off because like if Spielberg were to put out a movie and it was completely garbage, I feel like that would kind of hurt his reputation. But also if you look, he has about 15 movies that I've honestly never even heard of that suck. It's like people are going to remember you for what you did great. And I think a lot of people get stopped by thinking that they're not going to be great every film they make. And it's like, just make the film as just try. It's just like a life motivation. Just try your best no matter what you're doing. It's so hard because you just gotta. I mean, you felt it. I felt it's like you're gonna make it. You're gonna feel some days like this is. It's almost like a day to day. Some days you're gonna feel like not doing it, and guess what you do on those days? You just feel like that, and then you move on. You go to the next day. It's like it's just if you feel like you're not going to be able to do it or make a film or not going to be able to make it good, don't actually let that have an effect. If you're thinking that, that's fine. Everyone's going to think that. But if you're then saying, "All right, I'm going to cancel the script. I'm not going to write." That's when it becomes a problem. So it's like even if you feel that way, just continuously doing of like I'm whatever that means of for your process of like I'm going to write this out because you need a script to tell something. And then that gets into like, well, I can't film because I don't have good enough audio. It's like, well, you're now putting yourself in a creative box, which is good. Now make your film a silent film. Make your film a film where you rip music. Oh, I don't have a camera. You can rip stuff off the internet. You can film with a laptop screen. It's like you hear that being spieled out of like you don't need gear. You don't. I say that as I have an FX6 LED panel, microphone. Like you're filming on your camera, we're filming on our laptops, phones right here. It's like it's easy for me to say gear doesn't matter as I actively pour more and more money each month into gear. And there it is like I feel like that filmmaking is a lot of like people. It's usually the first excuse is gear. Like I don't have gear or and it's like either you do have to invest, and if you're not like you're saying, you were competing with a Arri Alexa. It's like people in this industry are paying money to be the best they can. If you're not willing to pay money, it's like quite frankly, this isn't the thing for you. If you're not willing to like sacrifice time and money, I'm sorry. It's like you can't expect success if you're not willing to sacrifice, which is kind of like life. So it's like I don't know. I don't know if that works or if it doesn't, and it feels like it works. Who knows? If that, I don't. What was like? Do you feel like that rings true a little bit of like you just
100%. I mean, one of my favorite things, and I don't even remember what director said it. I mean, it would have been like a Spielberg type
yeah.
director, but it was like if you want to be a director, then direct something. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like you just at some point you can't like sit around and hope something's gonna land, like somebody's gonna email you and be like, hey, come direct this thing. It's like just go out and make a product, in the credits put your name as a director, and now you've directed something, you are now a director. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
I think in today's realm of technology, I mean, you can film a a, a movie on your phone, and like
Oh yeah.
most everybody has a phone. I mean, you look at YouTubers like Ryan Trahan, everything he films is on his iPhone, and he's one of the top YouTubers in the world.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, equipment's huge, but um, I think more than that, it's just like how much do you want it in a sense, and like there are
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I mean, burnouts happen. There are definitely days where I'm like, I don't want to even look at that
Yeah.
script that I'm writing
Yeah.
because I can't even like I have to reread it all and like I mean that's I was texting you about a script and I've sat on that for a couple
Yeah,
months
your
now and
feature.
haven't really touched it. And so it's like there are definitely times where it's like I don't even want to do anything right now, but then I feel like being like if I'm texting you about it or if I'm texting one of my other friends about it that are filmmakers, then it's like, okay, well now Luke's invested in this product too, and I can't let Luke down as to where
Yeah,
like
you can't let me down, Ian.
if I was doing it by
Don't let me
myself,
down.
if I was doing it by myself, I would be like, oh, I can just scrap it. But now like I've
Nah,
invested
yeah.
other people into this project, and like that's where like I try to bring so much like outside help in. Um, because I know that like as much as I want something to be done my way's
Mm-hmm.
probably not the best way. And like I think that was something that I learned at Kalamazoo just by going to school there, where it's like we do a lot of projects as groups, and like you can't be so set in doing things by yourself because your product's not going to be the best it can be. And so it's being able to find the people and surround yourself with people that are a better than you at X, Y, and
Mm,
Z, or B have a different mindset than you, or can just look at something and be like, I don't know if that really works, and then work through how does it not work and
mm-hmm.
where can we progress. And when I worked for a Netflix show called American Conspiracy: The Octopus Murders. It was a Netflix docuseries directed by Zachary Trites, and I sat down with him one day and I was talking to him about like why do you do everything? Because he directed the thing, he shot the thing, he edited the thing, and
Oh, wow.
he worked with the music guy, and he was like, I don't do everything. It looks like I do everything, but I need to know a little bit about everything so when I talk to people that do know that thing, so if I talk to
Yeah,
an editor that really knows editing, I can communicate with him on his level, but I also need to give him control of the edit because I can't like
yeah,
what I'm going to be able to do is not how good it could be. And his big thing was with music, and he was like, I know a little bit about scoring, but I know if I get somebody who's going to score this show, they are a professional and they're going to do
yeah,
better work than me. But I need to be able to communicate with them on a level that kind of allows them to be themselves and where they don't have to dumb things down for me. And it's like I can touch on a little thing, every little thing, and be able to do all of the things. Um, Even though if my focus is a director or a DP, I need to be
hmm
able to know how to edit and I need to be able to know how to do some audio engineering. So if I get somebody that is way better than me, I can talk to them on their level, but give them the creative control and be able to communicate with them what I'm looking for in a way that they understand. And so
Oh, yeah.
that was a huge lesson to me when I was because I was living in New York when I was doing that internship with him, and
Oh, cool.
so it was that was a huge lesson that he taught me.
Tarantino has actually a phenomenal quote about that. He says the director is supposed to have the vision. He's not supposed to do every part to make it happen. It's like, as the director, your job's to say, here's my vision, here's where I want it to go. Now you go make it happen. Trust, and that's like, don't micromanage, like all these things of like, and it is hard when you're an indie filmmaker because you have to do every single part. You can't pawn off. Every project's going to be as cheap as it can be because short films make no money. It's like there's all these things, but that's much better. I love how you put that all together. Very well spoken, Ian. That was well put together. That was beautiful. You were in New York. Where did you? So that's funny that I said. I wonder if we were in New York at the. Wait, were you? Was it this summer?
No, so I would have been in New York. Um, it would have been 2 winters ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so I was there from January until um, March or something like that. So just a couple of months out there. But yeah, I did instead of doing a study abroad, I did study away through Kalamazoo College, and I went to New York.
Was that with Grace? Didn't Grace go to something
Yeah.
like that
So
too?
so Grace and I were there at the same time. That's actually how Grace and
Gotcha.
I met, was through that. And
Wow.
then
Small world.
yeah, and so her and I went, and we actually, so I did that internship, and then Grace and I did another internship together at Greenpoint Pictures in Brooklyn. And so that's really how Grace and I met. And that's I don't know if you saw the short film that I did with her, but it's called Flat Tire Inc. And
Mm.
it was the first short film I had ever done. Grace and another intern wrote the whole script, and then me and another intern, Adam, he DP'd it, I directed it. Grace AD'd it and like helped me with uh, doing everything. Really, she produced. She was
Yeah.
the producer on it. She kept us on track. She AD'd it. She made
Yep.
sure we knew exactly where we were going. Had maps for us. At like
There you go.
she literally did everything, and it was
Yeah.
huge. But yeah, and I worked with a professional actor on that too, and it was
It's
my first.
crazy, isn't it?
It was my
Like
first
seeing how
film.
good they are.
Yeah, it was my first film, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be light work. And then I go and do my next film, and I was like, okay, it's a little bit harder.
They
But
make it good actors make it so easy. They're
yeah.
just like, oh, I'll say my line perfect right away. It's like, oh, okay.
And then just like, because the thing is, I mean, how you were talking about what Tarantino said, it's like you obviously saw something in these actors for the role in which you want them to play, and so it's
Yeah.
like being able to give them the freedom of like, here's what's written, but like go and just do it. And
Yes.
it brings so much more. Like I remember in when we were shooting Flat Tire, we had the sequence of one of our actors, and he's just sitting on a subway, and he is just, we didn't write any lines for him, we just said like improvise, and it's just him sitting on a subway. Grace is the other person in the scene, she's just sitting there, and she has her headphones
Cameo.
in, and he's just sitting there talking, and just like says some of the craziest stuff that I have ever heard. And it was the funniest thing. Like we had to cut so many times because I'm just dying laughing on this subway train. And like we're like, God, we got to keep it in. And then he does something completely different, and it's like, you
Yeah.
can't keep doing this, dude. Like you got to reuse something so we know it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
so funny.
but yeah, it's being able to give away like a lot of that as a director is so like, it's so like freeing in a sense of like,
Oh yeah.
I don't have to micromanage, like you were saying, like
Hmm.
micromanage what's being said or what's going on. It's just like I am so confident in the abilities that the actors that I've cast have, and then it's just like do like take whatever you think is on that sheet and just go with it, and just do you, just feel that character and be you, and so like that's been huge.
Oh yeah, there's the you're saying this and I'm remembering I don't know how I think I heard someone say it or I read it somewhere. Could have been another Tarantino soundbite that I'm thinking of now that I said that other one is um if you obviously give direction and give pointers of saying give changes if you want it to obviously make it what you want to. I do believe in that as much as giving them that creative freedom, but don't give them critiques until after they try it themselves once. Because once you take away that change, or once you tell them to do it your way, you're never gonna get it to where they originally saw. And it's like their truth. They see someone, whoever they said, it's like that their truth. If you take away someone's their truth of what that thing is, what's true to them, you're never gonna get that back. And that's I feel like that's exactly what you're saying of like let them do what they can and then go in and surgically say, hey, this is what I want changed, but let's do this together. Let's work together of like, hey, I don't really think my character would say that. Oh, you've been playing this character, you're going to know them probably more than me. While at the same time saying, no, if this is my thing, having to be able to put that foot down in a nice way of like, hey, that was kind of garbage, but let's try that again. Or whatever that is.
No, for sure. I remember this, so I've done some theater stuff, and a director that I worked with at Kalamazoo College, his name is Dr. Quincy Thomas, great director, took his directing classes at school, and like he helped me with like a director's mindset so much just from that class and being able to sit down and talk to him along with acting for him. And so I was in a project with him, and I had to play like 3 different characters. And so like he was just the first like week of rehearsal, he just let me do whatever I wanted with those characters and like try to figure out voices and try to figure out how they're different and where they're similar and X, Y, and Z. And then he was like, all right, now I like what you did here. Like I never thought about this for this character, but these 2 characters are too similar. So how can we switch how this character is played? And like he made a big emphasis on like what you're saying is letting the actor make mistakes in a way, to learn that character. And then if it's because it's either better than you envisioned it yourself,
Yeah.
or B, you can direct them to where you see that character being. Either way, it's like I get what I'm thinking, or I get a better version of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and if you
And
cut
so
that off, you'll never get it, right?
exactly, if you cut it off, then it could be worse than how you wanted it because they're trying so hard to please
Yeah,
you
to
as a
be.
director.
I love that. I love that we also have somehow in 2 different ways found that same thing, which means it's got to be true then, right? If we both came, it's our truth, Ian. No one's taking away our truth, Ian. I don't know. I just did Wakanda Forever. I'm not sure why. That just came to me. That's my truth. You can't take that from me.
Oh my God, that's amazing. But yeah, so just to kind of wrap us up here, where can the people find you? Plug your stuff.
Yeah, I kind of did this or throughout sprinkled in here. So like I do pride myself on making myself pretty easily to be. If you want to know about me, you can go to lukering.com, you can go to sukavision.com, or you can go on YouTube to Luke Ring or all these things I'm everywhere. I put myself everywhere. But the biggest link would honestly just be my Luke Ring YouTube. That like just to have. I do think like this is getting real nerdy into like, oh, what funnels people in of like if you're dropping links, it's got to be one. So they just click on the one and it's the Luke Ring vlog, which I'll talk about. I'm going to talk about being on this podcast. So if you want to hear me talk about being on the podcast of like, and you'll probably see Ian on one of these vlogs soon when we make something together because we're just locked in now.
I hope so.
But yeah, that's where you can find me and see what I'm up to.
Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on here and spending an hour and some change with me, even though I told you it was going to be 30 minutes. But
I knew we were about to yap for you. Come on. I told Sam, I was on a call with Sam before this. He's like confirming locations with me. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to work. I'm also about to just go yap to Ian forever. I know. He's like, oh, I know. We call each other SB and LR because those are our initials. I don't know how we got to that point, but I'm like, SB, you already know I'm about to yap. And he's like, oh, I know LR's a yapper. And I'm like, so I do know I'm a yapper, everyone. Okay.
Best platform for a yapper
is a podcast. Yeah.
But
it's been great. Thank you for having me, Ian. I look forward to doing this again sometime.
I look forward to working with you soon. I mean, we've tried.
Yeah, I know.
We've tried several times now, and it hasn't worked out. But soon.
It'll happen.
But I just want to say thank you to the listeners for tuning into the Indie Creative. Make sure you check out all of Luke's work on both his YouTube channel, his website, as well as his production company's website. Stay tuned for more conversations with indie creators who are making waves in the industry. And until next time, keep creating.